Thank you. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, April 30th. As we always do, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is vote Doug Shea seeking appointment to the Recreation Committee as an associate member. Doug, come on up. Why don't you just give us a minute? Yeah, we have your application, but just add in any information you'd like us to have.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I am a 38-year resident of Walpole. Been here for almost my whole life, but I can't quite call myself Italian. I'm a father of three kids, ages 5 to 9. I'm a Precinct 7 RTM member, and I'm a FinCom member. And tonight, I'm looking to become an associate member of the Rec Committee. And I really, I'm looking to get more involved in the community. You know, I love this town. I've loved it for a long, long time. Now, one of the things that I really like about the Recreation Committee is it spans so many different things. You know, as a father, I get to take part in things like the Easter egg hunts all day. I absolutely love being part of those things are really important. I want to be in a position where I can do that, where I can give back, where I can help make decisions that kind of direct the committee. And I know as an associate member, I won't have a voting role, but I do want to be involved in those conversations and help direct those things. I know in my role in the Finance Committee, it's been very interesting the last couple of months to see Jarvis Farm, to see the fields come up, and I really want to be involved in where those things go. Is there any questions that you have?
I'll just start off by saying thank you for volunteering. I think volunteers are one of the things that makes a town great. People who are willing to give up their time. So thank you for doing that. I'll open it up to any other questions.
I'm so happy you're volunteering too, Doug. I'm just curious, when were you a seasonal, when were you a lifeguard? 5 years ago, 20, 30, 40 years?
Plus, yeah. 94, 95, 96.
I think it's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, no questions. Just thank you for volunteering, Doug. Appreciate it.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Doug Shea to the Recreation Committee as an associate member.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
So the way it's going to work is they'll submit paperwork to the town clerk. You'll get a letter, then you'll go get sworn in. So just procedurally.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brad Hickey seeking appointment to the Rec Committee as an associate member as well. Welcome, Brad. Same thing, we have your paperwork. Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
Well, I've been a resident of Walpole for 15, going on 16 years now. My kids participate in a lot of activities, both through rec and the other programs in town. And with so much going on in town, I think it's important to have people that are invested and engaged in the things that are happening be a part of these committees. So I think I can do some good things in working with the group, and I'm looking forward to it, hopefully.
Great. I'll say the same thing. Thank you for volunteering. I think volunteers is what makes a town a great town, when people are willing to give up their time. And I know you give your time in other things as well, but thank you. I'll open it up. Any other comments or
Just
questions?
ditto, thank you for being willing to be on the committee. Appreciate it.
Same. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Brad Hickey to the Recreation Committee as an associate member.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Same thing. They'll file with the town clerk and you'll get a letter to come in and get sworn in, so. Well, that's okay. Next up is a vote to change manager, change of officers for the VFW 109 Robbins Road. Is there anybody here from the VFW? Come on up. Welcome. Just give us a little background and how are things going at the club?
Oh, wonderful. Everything is great. The building's up to snuff. We just had a fire alarm and a security alarm put in because we had 4 attempts on people breaking in, and that's all taken care of now. We
Great.
have cameras surrounding the building, so we can keep a good eye on the place.
Great.
Everything is going well.
We have your paperwork. It looks good to me. Stacy, you happy with all the paperwork? I'll open it up for any comments or questions. Ian?
Sure. Hi, Mike, how are you?
Very good.
Good to see you. I think this is great. I mean, I know Charlie Quinlan, he's a top-notch commander of the post, and John. So I think that it'll be nothing but positive. So thank you for
It has
stepping
been
up.
so far.
And I know you enjoy it, so thanks.
We have a great time.
Right, I've been there several, I know it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
I'm good, Mark.
Nancy,
Thank
you
you.
all set?
All set?
I'll make a motion.
Sure, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion to approve the change of manager and change of officers for the VFW 109 Robbins Road as referenced in the April 2nd, 2019 document 4-18.
I'll
Very
second
good.
that.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. You're all set? Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vote to accept the ban and borrowing for various articles authorized at town meeting. Welcome.
This borrowing is for various articles. We rolled over the bans that we did in November to match up with the new borrowing cycle for May, so that we can include fall and spring town meeting together. And for the long-term borrowing, this time we're borrowing for 2 water main projects, the Old Post Road roof improvement and Elm Street roof improvement. And we got really good rates last week for the borrowing. The bans were 1.9 and the long-term borrowing was 2.44, which was less than we had last year when we borrowed, so that's a good thing.
So just for people at home to know, bans are short-term borrowing that we do, which are shorter durations for projects that, we can do quickly and pay off quickly. So, and the rates we got are awesome.
Yes,
So it
they
was
are.
great to get such a good rate. And the town basically puts a package together, we go out to bid, and people bid on what they're willing to, float a bond for us at.
And this year, we got a lot more bids than we had in prior years, so, which is a good thing.
Any questions for Marilyn? What's the question? So Marilyn said we don't have to read the entire 2 pages,
Oh, okay.
so.
Yeah, it can be done as written.
As referenced?
I've referenced,
Okay.
but you do have to vote to accept it.
We will vote, yeah.
So I will make a motion to approve and accept the band and bond borrowing for various articles as authorized at
I mean,
town meeting, referenced in document dated April 25th, 2019, 4-19.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Marilyn.
you're welcome. And I left you a whole bunch of paperwork to sign.
Okay.
Oh.
Are you gonna stay till we sign it?
You want me to, I will. Start?
Yeah. Should we start now?
Yeah, start now. We'll keep going. With the time being before 7:30, this is not a public hearing, right?
No.
So we're going to start a little bit ahead of schedule. Kathleen McCabe, PowerPoint presentation on downtown parking and economic development strategy study. Yep, thank you.
We have a handout, and pass it out now, and highlight.
No, he just sent a message saying he's not coming.
So I can take this, please.
There's
Thank you.
enough, I take one and pass it along, so.
Yeah, you can just toggle here.
Okay.
So make yourself comfortable, however you want to do it. Just needs to be.
I want to thank you for inviting us. I'm Kathy McCabe, and principal of McCabe Enterprises, my colleague here. John Shevlin, and John's the Senior Vice President of Par Corporation. Par and McCabe often collaborate.
Patrick's going to give you the microphone just for the TV audience.
John Shevlin sitting in front. And, John is the Senior Vice President of Par Corporation. McCabe Enterprises and Par frequently collaborate on planning and downtown projects. Par took the lead on many of the parking issues, and we wanted to talk a little this evening about some of our findings. We were asked to look at parking and develop an economic development strategy for downtown. So the handout is the recommendations. We also submitted a report earlier on. And John, do you want to kind of take the lead and talk about some of the parking findings? And I'll just advance the slides.
Good evening. As Kathy mentioned, John Shevlin from Park Corporation. We did take a lead on the engineering task. When I talk about the engineering task, I'm talking more or less in regards to the parking. And we also looked as far as mobility, as far as the infrastructure, some of the sidewalks and the street crossings and such, just to try to see if there's any needs for making some improvements to make it safer. So as Kathy mentioned, we did a parking study. We went through a pretty extensive parking inventory of all the parking spaces that occur in the downtown area. We did an inventory over several different time periods. We looked at the morning, midday, and afternoon peak hours. We also looked at a Saturday midday peak, and we wanted to get some information in regards to, first, how much parking is there, and then how much is being used and how much is available during those certain times. So, this is just a slide that shows you one of the typical findings that we had, but we looked at it in October and November of last year as far as our inventory. The counts were complete, as I mentioned, different time periods. And this is basically what we found on a lot of different analysis that we did for the amount of parking that was there and how much was used. We found as far as the public parking that's available that the town has, that's not MBTA parking between the on-street and the off-street parking. We found that there's pretty significant amount of parking that's still available. Some of the lots had capacity that was certainly available and could be used further in regards to the needs that need to be parked. But we also did look at the MBTA lots, and we found that all those lots seem to be at capacity. So that's something that does impact some of the parking in the other parts of town. We do see people out there that are using some of the public parking spaces that aren't using the T-lots because either they can't get it or because some of the rates are a little bit better for them in regards to parking free in the downtown parking areas. The commuter rail parking, the parking, they have availability at the Walpole commuter station, and also there's a parking lot on the Elm Street. Those are the lots we found to be at capacity, and certainly have a need in regards to going ahead and increase the parking in that area. Not only does the impact of the parking being in full capacity, it also impacts your circulation in the areas because you got people who are driving around looking for parking spaces, so it just adds more cars onto your roadways and such. Also the new construction, there's a lot of construction going on, which we feel is going to be TOD type of development, where a lot of people are going to be living downtown, using the commuter trains, hopefully not using their cars as much, and the parking needs aren't going to be as excessive as they need be. But that did impact some of the parking that you had available for the T. We do have a stat in there that we got from the MBTA as far as the available parking. As you can see, for the different communities in the surrounding area, Walpole does have the least amount of parking available from the T. We just bring that up because there are communities that have significantly more parking, and so there's a need there. So maybe something that the town may want to have discussions with the T and see if there's opportunities as far as increasing that, whether it's parking structure or other possibilities for parking in the area. So in addition to doing our parking inventory, we did a pretty extensive survey. We went ahead, we reached out to the businesses and left surveys for their customers to fill out. We left them at the library. We also did a online survey so we can get some feedback from MBTA users. We left flyers in their windshields in order to go ahead and make sure they were able to. We got some great results from that. I think overall we had 153 people respond to the survey, which is a pretty decent number for a survey, so we're happy with that. But these are just some of the representative questions that we asked just to kind of get a feel in regards to what the parking needs are. So we wanted to know things like why people come downtown, and like I said, a lot of the results show that there's a lot of visitors. They want to go to the restaurants, they want to go visit the businesses. So it's good to see in regards to people having interest in regards to what's going on downtown. Obviously, it's a vibrant downtown, has a lot of opportunities for people, so getting them down there is a good thing to occur. Some of the other questions we asked about in regards to where they park, the town municipal lot seems to be getting a lot of use, and it seems like over 80% of the people did use that off-street parking. There is a percentage of people that do park on the street. What we found historically is that the people who park on the streets are the ones that typically want to go to that one destination in order to go ahead and park there and then run into whatever store it may be and then go back out. So that kind of shows up in regards to our next question that we had as far as have you ever left downtown due to no parking? Surprisingly, there was a decent amount. There was almost 40% of the people who said they have left. That may have been on one occasion, but typically we find that to be people who, like I said before, like to go to that one destination. They don't want to park in the downtown area, a parking lot that's remote, and they have to walk to their business. But that's one of the things we're trying to encourage as part of this study is to try to get people to go ahead and get in the mindset as far as more walkability within the community. And then we want to go ahead. Obviously, the train attracts a lot of people. There's a lot of people that come. I'm sorry from your way. There's a lot of people who come downtown and they come to use the parking and use the T from downtown Walpole. We feel there's an opportunity there in order to go ahead and grab more people and market downtown in order to help increase the economic viability of the downtown area. And we wanted to find out how many people came and used the T and the park and how many stayed there in order to go ahead and visit restaurants, visit shops. And some of the results that we found as far as do they visit any business downtown, we got over 60% of the people who said that they do not. They basically come here, park, take the T, come home, get off there, get in their car and go home. So, we want to take a look as far as the economic end that Kathy was involved in to try to get more people to go ahead and visit the downtown areas. So the walkability end, again, this is just there's a study that's done to show that the overall score as far as how a community is walkable in a downtown area. And when we say walkable, it's in regards to how friendly is that downtown area. The surrounding communities, based on the study that was done, show that Walpole was considered a somewhat walkable community. Had a score of 52, which is right about the border in regards to being somewhat walkable. You see some of the other surrounding communities that we want to take a look at. Most of them were all higher scores. Except for Dover and Norfolk, and those are determined. Those were found to be car-dependent type of communities, and that's mainly because they don't really have a downtown area like Walpole has. So we feel that there is some needs as far as making it more walkable. I think they have a great sidewalk system in Walpole downtown area, but some of the areas that we found were some of the crosswalks. The crosswalks seem to have some areas where, whether it's speeding cars, sight distance in some of the areas, pedestrian signals, but I think the people that use the downtown area have a concern in regards to just some of those implementations as far as making it better and getting people to walk around more safely. And as I just mentioned, some of the areas that they have, there is the accommodations are great as far as the sidewalk conditions. ADA accessibility seems to be in place. There are some areas, as we mentioned, that are challenging areas that we identified, and those were basically due to either alignments, speeds of cars that occur in the area, traffic signals that need to be a little bit of upgrades for pedestrian signals.
So as part of looking at both parking and transportation on the overall kind of presence of downtown and how to strengthen the downtown, one of the things that we think is important is wayfinding. And I think that relates to the parking issue because many people said they couldn't find parking or they didn't know where parking is. So, and also, if you want to tap into that 60% of commuters who are not shopping or using downtown Walpole, part of that is having some wayfinding information at the train station or near the train station. Because as you have new buildings and new development, the ability to see all of downtown from the train station is lessened. So it's more important than to have some visible communication of what is downtown. Also, I think there's ways to kind of project and identify downtown a little more. We have a couple samples from Salem. There's 3 examples of where they have both pedestrian scale wayfinding as well as automotive, so when people are driving. Yes, Salem has some tourism to it, but I think it was a well-designed, well-used system. Also, there's from Littleton a more contemporary design, and that really kind of conveys your image. And that's one of the things that we've recommended, that you look at branding and kind of developing an identity for Walpole, downtown Walpole, and think that wayfinding could contribute. One of the things, as everyone knows, retail is changing, and Walpole has several different commercial districts. You have Route 1, but you are also near a lot of competition, whether that is Patriots Place, whether that is Legacy Place in Dedham, and all those pink and purple circles are either retail centers or regional trade areas for regional centers. So you're in a very competitive marketplace. And what I think we detailed in the report, we looked at and what the trade area is. We did that by driving a 5-minute drive time, 10-minute and 20-minute drive time. And within the 5-minute drive time, there is retail opportunity. That is your closest potential customers to downtown. It includes primarily Walpole, and that's really who downtown businesses should be going after, and your target market, because there's the most opportunity, because people want convenience. Those who take the train, if they're more aware of what's in downtown, I think that can be helpful, and also filling some of those vacancies. But I think looking at the competitive retail areas, if you kind of stick to your knitting and look at shopping local, that's where your greatest opportunity is, within the 5-minute drive time. So there are 3 different customer bases potentially for downtown Walpole. As I mentioned, I see the greatest opportunity within the 5-minute drive time. On downtown residents, you have about 2,500 households. All of Walpole, you have about 9,000 households. So that's really your principal area. Area employees are a really important sector. In the survey, 40% of the people said they were downtown because of work reasons. Those are people who you want shopping and using services and patronizing local businesses. And also, if we can increase that percentage of local shoppers, that would be great. There are about 3,400 people who work blue shows the heaviest concentration of employment. So you can see along Main Street you have a corridor of employment, and that's a potential customer base. Visitors, you have some visitors in terms of tourists, but not a lot. So I don't think that's where I would put all my major effort. Obviously, hospitality and encouraging people to come and visit downtown Walpole is always a plus, but I would focus on people who work in downtown and people who live in and around downtown Walpole and are Walpole residents. One of the things that I think is important is to look at the national context of retail districts and commercial districts. To the right, you see the graph about e-commerce. It's really now over 10% of all retail sales, and more people are combining both retail shopping along with online and then in-store pickup, so it's becoming morphed. What that means for the physical footprint of stores and business districts is the stores tend to be smaller, they tend to have less inventory, and they're also starting to be more as showrooms because they don't need every size. They may not have all the range, but they need to have it, and then be able to have next day deliveries or within two days, so customers can pick that up. But that means you also have delivery vehicles, so it's changing. Business districts that are adapting and thriving tend to be ones that are really focusing on promoting their businesses, helping businesses be more online savvy, as well as looking at their downtowns as social districts, restaurants, cafes, places where people gather. Co-working, the good news is you have the business center in Walpole has a co-working space. People who work from their homes or maybe in between jobs often like to work in a place where other people are working and not alone. So that co-working provides an opportunity for networking. It also provides an opportunity for startup businesses that you can tap into. There's the whole thing about the experience economy, with retailers needing to offer experiences, whether that is wine tastings or food tastings if they're food related, or thinking about, having, if someone's doing a more traditional hardware store, maybe it's how to do something, but every business is different. Sometimes there's come and try something out, if it's a yoga studio or some time of dance studio, so people can have a kind of taste or smorgasbord of what the service is like, so that people are really interested in collecting experiences and not just goods. And that's particularly true with younger people and millennials and Generation Z. So those are things that you need to be looking at in terms of the types of businesses. So how do we get from where we are today to where we would like to be? And really, town centers and downtowns like Walpole cannot survive solely as an auto-oriented district. You really have to embrace walkability, and that's really where the country is going in terms of having healthy downtowns, and it tends to drive housing values as well as office and other investments. People are looking at communities that have walkable centers, so that looking at having a pedestrian focus, making sure that you sustain your restaurants and support them, which includes parking, as well as connections with nature. The fact that you have, Springbrook and some of the improvements that you've recently done, I think is a real plus. You have a lot of the ingredients in downtown Walpole in terms of the civic and cultural center, and those should be enhanced. So we identified our recommendations in 5 categories: parking and mobility, economic vitality, design, promotion, and organization. And John, jump in, but I'll kind of take the lead. Parking is obviously a major concern. What is ironic is that many people say we have a parking problem, and we do have a parking problem around the train. But there's adding supply and more parking spaces by the MBTA for commuters is a need. But in terms of downtown, what we really need is to make sure people know where the parking spaces are. That's both a wayfinding and signage issue. It's some mapping. That mapping could occur online and be on the town's website. It could be an app on your phone, to start with just where is the parking and not just the visible parking. So getting the information out both to businesses and to customers or potential customers that there is parking in downtown, and how can you manage it. You need to manage it better. There are some recommendations that pertain to looking at 3 and 4 hour durations for people who are going to restaurants and spending more time. There was a lot of concern about the fire station parking lot when we were at the public meeting, maybe looking at that, because we know during shift change there needs to be enough parking for the overlap, but can there be some flexibility there. That's something to look at. But manage what you have. We also have some recommendations about striping. There is that one lot that's both public and private lots adjoin. If a cooperative agreement could be held and you restripe that lot, you can get additional parking with a minimal investment. And then enforce your parking regulations. I don't think you should start with enforcement, but I think, enforcement is part of making sure that people don't park all day on the on-street parking, so that is available for customers, and then add spaces as needed. It's going to be needed to be something that needs to be monitored. Downtown being more walkable. The more people walk, the easier it is to relax some of the parking standards. In terms of economic vitality, building the customer base, I think you've been doing a good job in terms of encouraging transit-oriented development and housing downtown, and more housing downtown would be a big plus. And then also looking at how to enhance your business mix, fill your vacancies, supporting small business growth. There are other services like the co-working space that could be a place where some small business growth or startups might be able to be invited. And there are a series of the Chamber of Commerce can be helpful there, but there are a series of pieces that could enhance small business growth, and you really don't have those services or support system in place. Redevelopment, you've got some areas that could be candidates for redevelopment, and I would say the CVS lot is one of them. That's an area where you could put some buildings along Main Street and it would enhance the walkability, and you could redevelop that parcel. That could be a perhaps a more contemporary CVS that could use a little spit, shine, and polish. So there's some ways of looking at that area that could be enhanced. In terms of design, we mentioned wayfinding. You already have some streetscape elements, but continuing to enhance them, whether that's areas to sit, whether that is adding some flowers, some placemaking, but just making this streetscape a little more enhancement that would be good, and bump outs were part of that. We included storefront improvements because better signage and adding some of the stores need paint. Some of them could use a little more polish and pick me up. So having a storefront enhancement program could be helpful. In any business district, you have to do promotion and marketing. So that's where we talked about having an image and branding and identity and linking that with your wayfinding. I think a shop local campaign would be really helpful. Get people to come shop downtown so that downtown businesses know that they're supported. And people are more likely to reinvest in their own business if they know the community is supporting them. Having an app on the phone with an inventory of what businesses there are and links. There are some packages that you can use with an app that could enhance and promote downtown Walpole. You could also put your parking information on there of where to look for parking and where you can find parking. Special events, you have some special events already. Having a regular calendar of special events in the center of town is really important. Placemaking, what is placemaking? It's looking at your history, your culture, making sure downtown Walpole is unique, reflects who Walpole is, and is something special. It's not just any contemporary office, retail area, shopping center, that people know where they are when they're in Walpole. And you've got a lot of things that say Walpole and enhancing that. we mentioned the Bay Circuit Trail because that's really a regional trail, and that's something to be aware of and enhance because it goes right through downtown Walpole. It's a hiking trail. And also, we want to say there's a whole series of recommendations on organization because none of this happens just by the magic wand. My experience is it usually requires a work of a committee. It's not just a town committee. It needs to involve residents. It needs to involve property owners. It needs to involve business owners, and it requires volunteers. So that public-private partnership would be a really, really good way of doing it. There is a model that the National Trust for Historic Preservation has done, as well as the Commonwealth's Downtown Initiative that really looks at the Main Street model, which includes a 4-point approach. And we've highlighted the 4 points of economic vitality, design, promotion, and organization. And that might be a good model of a public-private partnership to work with. You can start small, get some victory, take care of some of your low-hanging fruit and keep moving forward. I'm happy to answer. I've talked a long time, and I want to spend some time answering questions. I'm sure you have questions about parking, and John can, and transportation. John can probably address those better than I can, but we're happy to try and respond to any questions.
Let me start with Nancy.
Hi. Thank you so much. Great job. I have a few things to touch on. So many years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, that we had actually a downtown kind of chamber, but then they merged with the greater chamber, and I think it more had to do with age of owners, Donnell, right?
I'm not really sure. It used to be called the Downtown Business Association, and then it ended up merging into it. I think it was because of lack of the actual downtown businesses participating, and it needed to be revived, and the meetings weren't going that well. Then it kind of formed into the Walpole Chamber of Commerce.
Right, and which was great, and it worked really well for a lot of years. What's really awesome about this right now is that one of our planning board members, Sarah Khatib, has actually kind of started doing and talking grassroots-wise about exactly this, and is now trying to almost, I think, in a way, Destination Downtown is to basically go back to the Downtown Business Association and kind of pick up on your points. So I think we're starting to do that, and Sarah and a few of us were also there when Jay Ash had come into town to talk to us about all the building that we have going on. And so my question to you is, then knowing how much building we have going on, what do you think that is going to impact us? Like, do you think that is going to then help some of the issues that we have going on as far as the storefronts and things like that? And so what we're looking for is, where do you think our priorities are as a town to be friendly to make sure that goes the right way?
You have a lot of different questions within that pack.
Right, I know.
So I'll try
tried
and
to make
address it.
close.
So I think if you have some willing volunteers and building a collaboration, it's not just business owners, and it's not just property owners, it's not just residents, and it's not just the town. It's all of those constituencies working together that make a difference in a downtown. Everyone has a role to play. And I want to say that one of the things about business owners, small business owners have long days. They start early in the morning, they work late, and they tend to work 6 or 7 days a week. So their volunteer time is limited, and there's also a finite amount of them. So trying to get a lot of, so they need to be involved, they need to be invited, but they may not come to every meeting because of time constraints. And I say that just kind of like people always bemoan, well, why aren't the businesses here? Because they're running their businesses, or they're like finally putting their feet up at 8 o'clock at night after they've been working since 7 a.m. So I would just kind of caution that and say that's probably one of the reasons why, unless there's a burning issue, business associations kind of, wax and wane depending upon what's needed.
So
and it's time to
Do you
regroup.
think we're doing the right thing?
I
Like,
think all of those are positive, what you've talked about and what Sarah's doing is a positive thing. And I think it should be done in collaboration with the town, because I think the town is an important partner. The town is a major property owner. You have town hall, you have the old town hall, you have the school, you have the rec department, you have the library, the fire department. Those are all really important to keep downtown.
Right.
And the libraries draw a lot of people. They're a real destination and they're a real asset, as are town halls. So keeping, services and businesses concentrated in downtown Walpole is a plus, and I think the large civic presence is a real plus. So I think the town has to be involved many of the streets are town-owned streets. The town owns many of the parking lots. So you're a player,
Right.
So you need to be a partner, and it can't happen without you. But we also need residents, and residents are often good for volunteer efforts. They're also good at promotions or helping, in a variety of capacities, which can be augmented by both involvement of property owners as well as business owners. So I think it's that collective effort that makes a difference. So I think you have to work on where Walpole sees the priorities. There's not one silver bullet. So I think often when you're looking at it, the new development is a big plus. You could probably have more housing in and around downtown, when it's appropriately designed and permitted. Addressing, getting the word out about parking, because that is a concern.
So that's actually my next question. You said early in your presentation that we should have a discussion with the T, that we should think about having that. So with that being said, and looking at the numbers, and where we have 253 T parking spaces, and we are definitely way behind everybody else, if we so much as just doubled the T parking spaces, which would mean adding a second deck to where those T parking spaces are, which right now, one of them is going to be across a, 4-story building? 3-story building?
Yeah,
And then the other one is actually behind a 4-story building, behind the train tracks on the Medfield side. So they would be not displeasing to the eye. So you mentioned that to us, but do you have that written as a recommendation in this report? Because in our negotiations and discussions with a lot of things that are going on externally with the T, that would be helpful.
I believe we've mentioned needing to look at additional parking.
That it would be able, because here on the map, you outline pedestrian-friendly things that we should be doing, but the lot that's behind the train tracks isn't even here on the map. And then you make suggestions all over the map, but you don't make a specific suggestion that we should be discussing with the T to increase their parking.
Yeah, that lot that was on the other side of the tracks, when we went out there and did the inventory, it almost seemed like it was a private lot. It wasn't a T lot. It seemed like the way the signage was set up, that there was a private owner who was collecting the fees for that lot. But across the street on Elm Street, that's an area that we thought may be a potential site for having some kind of structural parking. And I think we did mention that in regards to just, coordinating with the T as far as seeing if they could supply more parking in the area. And I think we did recommend that that's a specific location that could be a possible for additional parking.
So before we accept this, do you think you guys could go back and amend this? Because, that is T parking that is back there.
Okay.
And I think for us to go to maybe another level, it would be helpful to have it documented.
Yeah, we can make that modification, sure.
And when we did have Jay Ash in, there was a little bit of discussion about T parking, and he thought it was a possibility that the T may, after some discussion, be willing to consider a garage-type environment to
Right. Which
multiply parking, which is just what we need, which is just what you were talking about. So
Yeah. Yeah,
But
we
it would be
certainly-
good to have a little more in there, beef it
Yeah.
up a bit.
We can add
and,
We could do that.
Give us a few more bullets to
Sure.
go back to the team
Sure.
with.
We understand it's important to have arrows in the quiver, so we
Yeah.
got that.
And that's it.
You're all, Jim?
So I have a few questions. So first of all, thank you for doing this. And I think it's important that we address many of the things that you've raised. It strikes me that with the number of new units that are being built in the downtown, we have an interesting opportunity ahead of us to take advantage of that fact. You mentioned 2,500 households in the direct vicinity of the downtown already, and we're probably putting another 500 units online, and it's sort of in that same vicinity. So there's a big opportunity there. The notion of walkability is what I'd like to talk a little bit about. So when you say walkability, and I see the arrows on the map, as Nancy pointed out, but what I'd be really interested in is some specific recommendations as to how to improve the walkability of the downtown, and how that might tie in particularly to those new units that are going up.
Yeah, I mean, on the engineering side, I know, we mentioned in there, making intersections safer, and that could be bump outs as far as making the crossing distance that you have to cross an intersection. Those bump outs help to slow down cars too. So I think one of the things that we noticed and we've heard in some of the surveys is that, there are some cars out there that are driving at a high speed or a higher speed than what's posted. So I think the main thing is trying to get motorists to go ahead and realize it's a pedestrian-friendly area, and there's a lot of pedestrians that will be present, which will go ahead and help them slow down, naturally slow down. But at the same time, implementing things to make crosswalks more visible, to make sure they know that this is an area where pedestrians are crossing, and make sure all the mechanisms are put in place as far as getting them from point A to point B, so they can go ahead and walk along the different routes more safer.
I would also add, if you're looking at the connections between downtown and the train station, if you're looking along Route 27 and from the Common to the train station, that's bleak, to be perfectly honest. And there's very few trees. Main Street is a much more delightful street. But if you got off the train first time and walked down that, long graded sidewalk, there's not even a sign that says where downtown Walpole is. There's,
So I guess that's part of my question is, it's not just about where my feet are, right? When we talk about
it's
walkability,
what you see.
Yeah, we talk about what we see, but also the things that cause me to go to the places that I might want to go to. So how do you address those kinds of questions? And, because, again, you just give us a very high-level sketch here, but no specific recommendations around, you should put signage here, you should put signage here, you should be directing people to this, those kinds of things.
I think that's really the next step. I mean, we had a very broad assignment, and we did a lot of work in terms of parking inventory with a pretty constrained budget. Mm-hmm. So we tried to give you the most within the budget. So we probably weren't as detailed in terms of that next level that you might like. We'd be happy to do that, but I think we're happy to make the change in the report and detailing with MBTA parking. But I think in terms of really looking at very specifics, that may require a little more analysis because you want to get it right, because you're spending capital. You could spend some capital dollars.
So sort of playing into the theme that you brought us to around focus, which was, food, social, and experience, I think is what you said. And that's where I'm really trying to touch on is if that's the proper focus area, then how do we create the walkability in the town that draws people to places that would accomplish that focus?
So I would look at where your restaurants are, where your coffee shops are, and if I was accessing them from the train, I don't see those when I'm at the train station. But also I think it's if you're walking or if you're parking, it's like, okay, where are those restaurants? Where are those destinations? So thinking through, some of the restaurants really have gotten, have a good clientele. And the survey was very positive about the restaurants on downtown Walpole. But I think, it's kind of like making sure people know about them, making sure they're visible. There are vacancies in between. It's that's where an app can be helpful, because a lot of times people look automatically at their phone rather than looking for other information. So I think that's where doing some digital marketing and mobile marketing might make a lot of sense.
Yeah, which I think also, played into your shop local theme, and how do you create a pull to the downtown is some of what's in my head is how do we create that? I mean, the downtown's not that big a place, so it's not like it's really hard to know where things are, but on any given day, is there a reason to be going to a given place? And what are the kinds of approaches that you use to do those things?
Well, I think you have something. You clearly have some vacancies, so you have room for new businesses. So there's good news there. You also seem to have kind of an eclectic mix regarding music and dance studios. Sometimes I don't think people even know that some of these businesses exist. So sometimes doing special events and highlighting what you already have, and making them more visible, because people don't know about them. So it's, whether it's marketing and using it on an online newsletter to make people more aware of it, saying, this is what's happening, and profiling your different businesses, but that supports those businesses. It lets people know what's going on. Sometimes you've got restaurants. Well, you've got some music. You have music stores. Maybe there can be some potential collaboration there, because I'm not clear that there is that present collaboration.
So you raise an interesting point, and something that people have suggested to me in the past, which is, if you go up to Gillette, up to Patriot Place, there is music being played, and somebody mentioned to me, have we considered something like that in the downtown, where you might have music being played, whether it's piped in music or live music or whatever. But do you find that those kinds of things are a pull to get people to?
You have a farmer's market, and I know, I happen to live in Rosendale. We have a really strong farmers market, and having music, more people come the Saturday mornings we have music.
That's interesting.
And because, kids come, parents bring their kids, and people stay around because they want to listen. Right. And if they're staying around, they're spending more money.
Right. So two quick last things. One, in terms of finding parking, so signage is one way. But I'm wondering if there are better ways to, tell people where the open spaces actually are, whether that's through electronic signage that tells people that, or some kind of, an app that tells people that, or whatever. That it isn't just there's a parking lot over there. It's there's a parking lot over there, and there are 20 spaces open over there. That kind of thing.
I think that'd be in the long run the ideal. But you start with the map.
Yeah.
And sometimes Rome isn't built in a day. And also we're cognizant that not every municipality has a big budget for parking, because some of those automated parking sensors and signs are a lot more expensive than you might want to spend. Okay. Do you want to comment on that?
No, I think, I agree with Kathy. I think with the size of the community that you have, the number of parking spaces that are available right now, I think that is something that maybe long-term that you look into, but I think there is availability there that you're really not at that point right now where you need to have the number of spaces available. But I think with the app, just to show where the spaces are within the different lots, I think is a good start. And then, with the wayfinding, just get the people there to those spots. But
it was a big aha for me to look at this report and see just how many open spaces we actually have, not in the MBTA lot,
Right.
but in the downtown itself. There's quite a number of open spaces, and I just wonder how people might be having difficulty finding those spaces.
Well, that's right. I go back to, and we've done downtown parking studies, I think, for a half dozen municipalities throughout Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. And when you start the study, that's the first thing you hear is that there's a parking shortage. And then when you do it, and I think it's convenient spaces. People want to be within one block, maybe 3 blocks tops, as far as they want to walk. You go to a mall, Emerald Square Mall or Legacy Place during peak times, and you're walking a lot further than you are than 3 blocks, and people don't realize that. And then when you go inside, you get to your store that you want to go to or everything else. But when they're downtown walking outside, they don't want to walk more than a few blocks. And I think that's, the study should be done in regards to how many convenience spaces are there versus how many overall parking.
Okay.
So,
and then just last question. Obviously, the MBTA situation is a problem. If we could increase the parking, we'd obviously increase the opportunities for people to utilize the downtown. In your experience, have there been any towns that have employed, successful strategies to figure out how to work with the MBTA to get them to actually increase parking, whether it be a deck or what? Have you seen anything that you could offer to us to say, have you thought about this?
I have not.
I have.
You have.
And the T always likes it when someone else pays for it. So I think looking at what the town can do and in terms of collaboration or joint funding or acquisition of land can help move things forward on the MBTA. I was involved in the redevelopment around the Wonderland Tea Station, and there were a lot of surface parking lots there, and we worked with the T and built a new garage. And the T did bond for it, but the city of Revere also worked Thank you.
To build on that, I think what's old should become new again. Donnell, you, Beth, when you were doing downtown business, like you guys did the lanterns downtown, and they had talked about at that time, continuing the lanterns down and actually then doing them along that little walkway going over to the train station. And you guys talked about doing like the speakers and music on the common, that I think was an old idea could come back and meet over with Sarah in this study that, we had the right idea, but times changed and that just didn't really happen. That it sounds like what needs to happen. And then mentioning the dance studio, Jim, we take great advantage of, a world-class dance studio every St. Patrick's Day.
We certainly do.
But then St. Patrick's Day goes and there's downtown Main Street Live that we just do kind of music stuff like, the school, that could be a great place to showcase it, and even farmers market. That you're definitely right. We've got some hidden gems down there that we're probably not utilizing and giving them the exposure that they could get.
Did you say funding?
Funding.
Ann?
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very excited about these recommendations because they really reaffirm what I've been tossing around in my head for like the last year. I'm very concerned about our vibrancy of our downtown. And timing is everything. I'm a newly minted member, a board member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I had come to the board a couple of months ago with an idea, which actually combines, even before we got these recommendations, the shop local promotion and which would engage the businesses. And I just want to run it by you just because it's sort of a micro idea. And it's a shop local marketing campaign strategy primarily aimed at new customers, first-time consumers, since we want to take advantage of all of the new residents that are coming into the age-qualified village, which is walkable to downtown, and the 2 apartment buildings that are coming up. So what I had envisioned, and I brought this to Harry Bousaides, who's the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, was some sort of first-time customer program and strategy, like a first-time customer coupon book or an app like a Groupon, where we would have to engage the businesses because obviously they would have to offer something for first-time customers.
It's almost like the statement of what was old is new again. Chambers used to do welcome wagons.
Right, that's exactly the idea I had, was a welcome wagon idea, but we can't use that because it's branded, but it would be something similar. And I was trying to come up with some sort of slogan and branding strategy, imaging. And I know Sarah Khatib and Harry had worked on Destination Downtown, is what you came up with, which is great. And that can be incorporated. But do you think that that's something that entices and gets people? Because we really want these new people to, how you entice people by giving them something, and once they try it.
Well, coupons are always a good thing, but then the businesses have to deliver.
Absolutely.
So
that's on the businesses, but if we can...
it's a two-step process. People might say, well, if they're going to coupon for a restaurant, they want to have a good experience. Then they'll come back. If they're going to a store and it's a Metza, I went there wasn't much happening. So people have to be ready. That's where some of your promotion, design, and your storefront and sign facade is helping businesses get ready for customers. It's a continuous improvement cycle. It's not you start with day one, but I think the idea of welcoming new residents, people always feel better about a community if they feel welcomed, and Walpole prides itself as a small town community feel and people knowing their neighbors, so that's a real positive.
Right.
So I think capitalizing on that, it's not just shop local for new residents, but shop local for existing residents too.
Right.
I think that.
Well, and that's on the businesses. The free market system is, they want to stay in business and they want to succeed, then they need to offer.
But it's also having
product.
the culture of supporting your own.
Right, and that leads me to my next question. Are you aware of any cities or towns that offer incentives to business owners or property owners for improvements, or is there any, and I guess it's getting a little bit into how does the
sometimes
support?
Through community development block grants, sometimes there have been sign and facade programs. Not all communities are eligible for community development block grants, and I'm not clear that your downtown would be eligible. I know at one point Bill Ricca organized, and this was probably 15 years ago, organized a consortium of banks and created a loan fund to help support local business development. So the businesses still had to meet the underwriting, but enabled, and the banks, if there was, would share the risk. So sometimes one bank didn't want to take on all the risks, so maybe they shared it. But it was a commitment to by the banks to invest within that community. So something similar could be done. You have several banks along Main Street. You have local banks and local leadership that could, could help make a difference and say we support and will finance local improvements. I will say sometimes the financing may be the easy part. I think sometimes on sign and facade programs, it's as important to provide design assistance because most businesses, they may not know a designer, they may not know how to address the older building. Sometimes it's a property owner issue, sometimes it's a business owner issue. So providing some design assistance sometimes can be almost more pivotal, and that's an example of where a picture might be worth 1,000 words in terms of encouraging businesses to say, yeah, I'd like a new sign, or yeah, this would be
they're willing to invest in it.
Right, and I think once you get that, it's almost easier. The financing I have found is not always the biggest hurdle.
Great. Thank you so much.
Isn't a group like MAPC that could work with Walpole with us to maybe find some of those monies available?
MAPC provides a variety of services. They help with placemaking. They really haven't operated sign and facade programs, but they might be able to provide some.
But they could give us technical assistance to find out what is available at that state
yes,
level.
They can.
That we could reach out with Sarah's group and have them ask
That's
for
correct.
assistance.
They can do that.
Great. I would just say thanks. There's a lot of good ideas. There's some ideas I think we can do right away. There's some ideas I think that we can start some discussions with, Sarah's group, some of the downtown businesses, landowners, residents, people who work there. I think I read something a couple weeks ago about Attleboro did a program with some of the local banks for dressing up the downtown, and that makes me want to go investigate that a little bit more. But I think it was published about 2-3 weeks ago in the Boston Globe, just talking about doing some downtown signage and
Attleboro in the past has had a downtown streetscape sign and facade
just
program.
trying to make it more inviting year round. So that'll be something we can look into some more. But I think you gave us a lot of great ideas.
Yeah. So, and I would say, don't get daunted by the list. Start small and keep at it. It's like one step at a time. And if one path seems to be a block, there's another lane. So you kind of keep working through it.
Yeah, and another thing that we have is quite a few years ago, we passed Adopt an Island and adopt like the buckets and things like that downtown that, we put it all through, but I don't know that we necessarily do a lot of advertising as a town, but yet it's there as a resource that.
You've got a lot of ingredients. It's pulling it all together.
And as far as your group goes, Donnell and Sarah, I think it's important for us, you guys should have copies of this if you don't already. Start to look through that and then, figure out where we overlap and we can collaborate and work on some things. I'm sure Jim has some ideas already and Patrick has some ideas already of what are the things that, signage is one of those logical ones. I think about the little blue signs. I was in Detroit, for 5 days last week, and everywhere I went I was looking for a blue sign because I needed to find a spot to park my car. And I realized in downtown Walpole we have a few signs, but not many. So it would be good. Those are some easy things I think we can work on right away. So.
Yeah, I would say the report is excellent, very good. Table 19 recommendations. Our group has talked about almost every single one of them. We have a plan for almost every single one of them. The only one I think we haven't mentioned is the trails, which not that we're against trails, that's just something that we haven't talked about. But, we have a plan for all this, so what we're looking for is to find out, how much cooperation we can have with the town. How much are you willing to work with us, financially, advertising, all that kind of stuff. But, our goal is same kind of organization in Dedham did that sign and facade improvement program. And they had designers work with them because, you know, what Kathy mentioned, Ms. McCabe mentioned, the businesses, they like, I want a new sign, but I don't know how to do it, right? So the organization had the design, so that part was taken care of. So then you get the funding, you got the design, and the results are beautiful. So I mean, I think we have a plan for everything, so I'm just looking to see how much cooperation the town is willing.
I'm very interested in that. It seems like our board is, so let's figure out what the next steps are to get together and
And in Dedham,
start working.
the town was a real local partner with the Dedham Center.
Right, yeah, but the group kind of started without the town.
You know, you can start together or you can start separate, but you need to get be on the same page.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a hearing for Eversource seeking installation of 35 plus or minus feet of conduit near 767 East Street for electric service.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Jim, do you have any comments to get us started, or?
No, I know, actually just trying to find the paperwork. I know Maggie's here, and Maggie, you want to give a brief introduction of what we're doing here? Let's-
I can give you a general overview, but it'd probably be better to get the particulars from the applicants.
Sure.
It's to provide electric service for the AQV that's going in on East Street at the former Walpole Woodworkers site.
Great.
That's it in a nutshell, but the project proponents can give you a better idea of exactly what they're proposing, and I have a couple of comments that may or may not be taken care of once they speak.
Okay, let's do that. Come on up. Welcome.
Good evening, Rick Schifoni from Eversource Electric.
Shauna Kyle from Eversource Electric.
Great.
Yep. And we're here to seeking a grant of location for 35 feet of conduit at 767 East Street. And we're coming out of an existing manhole just in front of Eastover Road. And it's to provide power to the new facility.
Nancy?
Is it above ground or below ground?
This is underground.
All underground?
Yeah, it's an underground conduit, yep.
And inside the development, is it underground?
Underground in the development, too. There'll be a couple of above-ground switches, like transformer pads and switches, but the rest of the manholes and underground equipment.
Well, my comment is, I think that's awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board or comments? Jim?
Yeah, so East Street's a pretty busy street, so can you just talk to us about how you're going to actually do the work and how the traffic flow will or will not be impacted?
Yeah, during the construction, we'll probably be taking a lane with police details and a traffic plan worked out with the DPW. We'll obviously keep the road flowing. We've got about 35 feet, so we'll do it in sections so we don't close down the entire street at any time. And then as far as the working hours, the DPW will specify, non-commuting hours. We've got probably a good day, 2 days worth of work out there on the street as far as trenching and getting the civil conduit in, and then we'll come back at a later time to put in the electrical wires.
And so when the road's open, I assume you'll have like the metal plates down or something like that?
In a perfect world, we won't have to plate that. We'll be able to install
And cover.
concrete and restore.
Okay,
But
okay.
with rain, weather,
Yep.
and stuff like that, yeah, we would plate afterwards if we had to stop before, at the end, before the end of a shift.
How wide is the actual trench going to be?
It's gonna be about 3 feet wide.
3 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good, thank you.
Yep.
Ian?
Yes, thank you. Just briefly, is it standard, is it with new construction now, are the utilities tend to be built underground, or does it just depend?
It really just depends. If it's an overhead area, we stay overhead. If it's an underground area, we go underground. And it's really, as far as if you're an overhead area and you're gonna go underground from there, that's really up to the customer, because they're the ones that are actually paying for the undergrounding at that point.
Okay, but if you could go underground, I mean, if it's feasible, you
Yeah,
could
the
do it.
standard is if it's already an underground area, we continue to be underground. We won't put poles in an area that we
Correct.
have manholes.
Right.
And then when I say from a pole, we can, go down a pole and under the street to a house so you don't have wires going across. You see that in a lot of developments. That way there, if the area ever does get converted to underground in the future, it's easier to pick it up from an existing underground line.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So let me go back to Maggie. What other additional questions or comments do you have, Maggie?
The petitioner's application specified that this purpose of this filing was for electrical services for 2 buildings. I just want to make sure, because on this particular site, there are multiple buildings. I want to make sure that any underground work they do is all done at the same time, because the owner of the site is going to be responsible for the curb-to-curb overlay and all. And I want to make sure that we get all their underground work done. So the question I have for them is this, their petition was for a certain number of feet of conduit underground. Is this the only underground they're going to have to run, and then they'll diverge off of that on site, or will they be coming back for future filings again? I just want to make sure they get it all done at once,
Sure.
if possible.
Just come on up. Yeah, you can address that if you want.
4 buildings on the property.
Yeah, we're putting in 4 or 5-inch ducts, which will be able to handle multiple transformers on the site. It's actually going to go into the site, go to a manhole. There'll be a switch on one side and then do another manhole, so the transformers. We're bringing in what we call primary power, which is be 13.8 kV, and then it'll get dropped down in different transformers to feed however many buildings that they have in there. But 4 ducts going in gives us, there will probably only be using 2 going in, and we have 2 spares. Okay?
So it'll all be within the same excavation?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That's perfect. And then, just so you know, when they come into file, if this board sees fit to approve this grant of location, when they come into file for the street opening permit, we will impose conditions in conjunction with the police department and fire department, as far as maybe times a day or what the traffic management plan is going to be. That I don't imagine they've got that worked out yet, but that gets worked out at the time of the street opening permits. That will all be set in stone. I mean, it may be that the police department would want them to not work before rush hour is over, or before rush hour starts in the afternoon. Those are the kind of things we specify in writing before they get out there to work.
Is that road covered under a road moratorium right now, or is that?
I'd have to check, but I don't think so. But that's another thing we'd check also. I tend to think
No,
not, but
because
off the
they
top
had
of my head, I
trench-
don't
They
know.
had a big trench a couple of months ago.
That's what I
in
can't
front of
remember, yeah.
Yeah, so it was wide open, and that was.
That's why I'm saying I don't think so, because Eastover Road had to come into there to do for the other side, for the sewer and their manhole work.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Nancy?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for Eversource for the installation of a 35-plus minute conduit near 767 East Street for electrical service, subject to the conditions set forth in the town engineer's memo of March 26, 2019.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, next up is a vote and public hearing for Italian American Club for alterations to the premises.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the Italian American Club for alterations of premises.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Who would like to speak? Come on up. We have a vast TV audience, so that's why we want you to use the microphone.
Everyone wants to be at home comfy watching.
We're just here to get the approval from the selectmen so we can go to the ABC to move the bar and make it correct.
Great. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I think it seems very reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm, as some of you have heard me say over the years, we're glad that the Italian American Club is being reinvigorated and that money is being spent to make it, what it once was. And, I think it's a gem for the town. So I think you're all doing a great job, and I'd like to support you in any way that I can. So,
Thank you.
want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to approve the to approve the alteration of premises for the Italian American Club as presented, to move the bar to the new location, and reference document 4-22 dated April 9th, 2019.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstain. So 301. Thank you. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I will make a motion to appoint regular members to the Walpole Trails Committee. So, help me with this one. Sardar,
Zendaya?
Yes.
Come on up.
Virginia Ryan, and Michael Brennan. Second for discussion.
Second for discussion. So usually we've seen your paperwork. We usually just ask you to introduce yourself to the TV audience, and then if you have any questions for us, that's great. We may or may not have questions for you, so if you'd like to go first. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandhya Mullur. I live at 1115 West Street in Walpole.
Great.
Happy to be able to volunteer for the Trails Committee.
Great. Anybody, let's do them one at a time. Anybody have any questions? I would just say, as you heard me say, you may have not have heard me say earlier, I love it when people volunteer for committees. I think it's one of the things that makes a town great, when lots of people are willing to volunteer for others that live in the town. So thank you for volunteering.
Thank you. Just
So,
recently
Jim?
retired and discovered that Walpole has hundreds of acres of trails that are beautiful, and Gary and Glenn do yeoman's work, so it'll be fun to work with them.
That's great. I'm sure they'll be glad to have some more people pitching in, helping out. So, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that your background is totally fascinating here.
Oh, thank you.
And you've done a lot of serious hiking around the world, apparently. And with your AMC background, this is awesome. So thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
And my one comment with the marketing background, you might want to join the downtown committee too.
Okay.
Cross sell.
How about Virginia?
Hi, I lived in Westwood for 28 years, and I just retired and knew nothing about Walpole until July of this past year. And I'm a big outdoors person, Appalachian Mountain Club leader. I'm just stunned by all the trails and the town forest, and I just love Walpole, and I'm thrilled to be able to work with such dedicated people on the Trails Committee to keep the trails open and wonderful for the public.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Virginia? You heard what I said about volunteering, so it applies to all of you. So I won't drag the meeting out too much. Michael?
Yeah, Michael Brennan, lived in Walpole about 7 years. Got introduced to the Trails Committee through the New Year's Day hike, and thought it'd be a great way to get involved in the community. We also have a Mother's Day hike coming up. I got some flyers here. I'll give you guys here in a minute.
Did your graphic design work help with that?
Yes.
Excellent.
I think it's great to get more people on the committee, and then anything you can do to keep pumping it up. We do have some real gems here in Walpole, and lots of people that even live here don't know about them really. And you know, the more we can do to get the word out, I think is a great thing. And this building is a good example. We have a trail right off the back deck, and I know you've run some walks, you know, down to the White Bridge and stuff. So I think it's great getting people in general, but even the seniors walking down as far as they're capable of doing. And there's going to be some benches going in. So I think it's a great thing to get people outdoors and walking around. So thank you. Make a motion.
I made the motion in a second.
Oh, so a motion and a second. Sorry, I'm behind the curve. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing to note, I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago, they did, Chronicle covered the Bay Circuit Trail. And they went from Medfield to Sharon.
Oh, and they didn't come here?
Nope.
Oh, that's too bad.
I was so excited to watch it. And I watched, and then, you know, I'm like, and then I'm like, they totally skipped us.
This is the first time that I have seen in Walpole the term trailhead being used. So I think it's very Appalachian AMC. So I like it. I think it can just bring a tremendous amount of value to the already hardworking Trails Committee. But just to capitalize, it is
Awesome.
true that one of the great things about Walpole, besides its people and its sense of community, is our geography. And we're so blessed that the town owns a lot of that property, and that we have people, dedicated people for the past years, and seem to want to take it up a notch. So.
Well, you were talking about the walking trails from the senior center. Virginia had the great idea of leading a walking group from the trails to augment what Gary's already doing. So we're thinking about doing that. We've been talking to Carrie about it.
Thinking of calling it the Walpole Trail Walkers. They've been, open to everybody. And we're going to start exploring the trails. Well, first in Walpole, but then, venturing out. I have some friends who are the AMC leaders who are doing the same thing at the senior center in Westwood. We're going to connect maybe, hopefully, eventually, and as big groups go out and explore this whole beautiful region. Adams Farm, you've got, Westwood Hale Reservation, so we're hoping to get a lot of people outdoors.
Sounds great, yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody here for open forum? Seeing
Patrick.
there's nobody here for open forum. New business.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual request for the Epiphany Parish to hold the village fair and road race on June 8th, 2019, and to use the town common, and to have police execute traffic on those streets directly bounding the church, and to allow the fair to use Front Street.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to approve the request for Norfolk County Agricultural High School to use the old Fisher Ball Field on June 6th, 2019.
I'll second that. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to add that we do talk about it, and if there is ever any damage on that, they do restore it to better condition than the year before.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Make a motion to award bid contract number 2019-13 Elm Street School Generator to Systems Electrical Services in the amount of $209,400,000.
I'll second that for discussion. Jim, do you have anything you want to add to that one?
We received 3 bids for that one. They were pretty competitive. The $209,400 came within the appropriated amount that was set at the spring 2018 town meeting. I know Don's looking to get this scheduled pretty soon, so I appreciate that.
So is this our last school generator, or?
No, he's got a couple more.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't remember exactly where we stood. I like the idea of getting generators at all of the school buildings. So, I mean, we've had cases over the past year where
Post
we lost
Road,
power.
He's doing this school. I think one of the middle schools is up next.
Okay.
That and they become shelters for the public when we need them.
Yep.
It's not just a school generator, it's a town generator.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Make a motion to award bid contract number 2019-18 to the Field Turf USA, Inc. for the Turco Field replacement in the amount of $134,461,000.
I'll second that for discussion. Jim, I look at that figure and say that's a great price.
Yeah, we're pretty pleased with that. We are going with multiple funding sources on that one. You may recall that we've been saving up for this over the last few years, and that's why we're able to do this now. And they're ready to go at the end of school, and they'll be done by August 8th? August 1st.
So they're going to start right after graduation?
June 22nd.
Okay, great.
I'd also like us to discuss the history of this, that years ago, that it was a humongous partake of the town of private funds to fundraise to get this project done and to put in our first turf field, and that so many people across town, so many businesses and people just donated and got the work done, and we put in our first field at a private rate. I did also want to mention that we then started quite a few years ago putting away in the budget, knowing that a turf had a certain life, which we have absolutely exceeded most towns' turf life by being very conservative with it. But it is in need of replacement. And with that being said, we've started to plan for it, and we have continued to get private donations for it too, of people that care about the turf and replacing it. So some of the funding sources are private donations.
100,000 plus.
100,000 plus of this is private donations that we have received from people that do care about this. So I think that that's important for everybody to know, that, we're awarding this bid contract, but the money did not, it was given to the town.
So motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the Blue Hill Cycle Club to use Adams Farm for the barn burner race on August 4th, 2019, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I'll second that, and just wanted to say, I think the bicycle races are awesome up at the farm, and so many people who participate or go watch really enjoy it, so I really think it's a great way for people to get up to the farm, and some of the riders are really great riders, some of them are regular people, so it's always interesting, so. Jim, you gonna ride this year?
This year, I'll be up there.
Okay, there you go. So
In a tree, watching.
Yep, exactly.
So motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
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 I'll make a motion to approve the use of Adams Farm for the Blue Hill Cycling Club to hold training events on 5/22, 6/12, 6/26, 7/10, 7/24, 8/14, 8/28, and 9/11.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to sign the annual town election warrant for Saturday, June 1st, 2019.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor,
Just
please.
note that today was the deadline for anyone to withdraw papers. We had 2 people withdraw, 1 person for planning board and 1 person for board of selectmen. So it'll be a 4-person board of selectmen race and a 4-person planning board race, 2 seat sheets.
Okay, great. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to approve the request for the Knights of Columbus for a 1-day, all-day alcohol license for May 3rd, 2019, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstain.
301. Thanks, Ann.
Old business?
No old business. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept with gratitude the gifts from the following: James Robinson to the Police Department for crosswalk visibility, and the Walpole Cooperative Bank for the Recreation Department for community events for $5,000, and the Moms Club Recreation Department scholarships.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Town administrator's update.
Sure, a few things here. Budget, as I mentioned before, we're ready to go for Monday on May 6th. Balanced and everything's out there. The Route 1A fields, I just gave you a packet of information that I provided to the Finance Committee last night on the fields, and some questions about borrowing. People had asked, we kind of put together a Q&A sheet. Here's where I just gave you the total breakdown, the number of what the bids came in at. So if this project is approved, that's a big if, I'd probably be asking for the Board of Selectmen to consider the award on May 14th, because there's a limited time frame on the window to award this contract. We have 30 business days from the date of the bid opening there, so that'll probably be coming up if it is approved. And the Finance Committee public hearing is set to be held in this building on this Thursday at 7:30. The meeting starting at 7, and the official hearings at 7:30. The school building committee, we talked about this at the last meeting. The board raised some concerns that it was a bit too big that was being proposed. In this proposal here, I'm taking it down to 15 members. That's similar to what we have with the Finance Committee and the Council on Aging when it was increased to 15 members. So we have experience with a large group that big. I agreed with the board that 19 was very tough to manage there. So my proposal here is to have myself as a non-voting member, which is allowed, and 3 members of the school committee on here, 3 members of the permanent building committee, a member of the Board of Selectmen, a member of the Finance Committee, and some school officials on it. The board is the appointing authority on this one, and I really need the board to make those appointments at your next meeting on the 14th. We have advertised the vacancy. That is in your packet. Just it's on the website. It's in the town newspaper. It's on the bulletin board with the town clerk for those 2 at-large positions. So I just want to know more or less, is the board okay with this proposed makeup here? so we're good to go for next, the 14th, our next meeting.
I don't seem to have the packet in front of me, but I did have a question. How many, when you talk about school officials, how many school officials were you thinking?
There you go, sorry.
Thanks.
So 3 members of the school committee here. Originally, last time, they'd asked for 5, and we reduced that down to 3.
I believe that was David's request, right? 3?
Yeah.
So I'm just doing a count. So 3 members of the school committee, plus the superintendent, building maintenance, representative of the, okay, permanent building committee. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, Jim. I think that there's also some open at-large positions.
And I actually checked this evening. We haven't gotten any applications.
Okay, so people at home, we do have some open at-large positions. People in the community can apply to be on the committee. I think we have 2 openings. I would encourage, this board and anybody watching on TV, if you have an interest in the process, just to give you a little background, realistically, starting now, if everything went according to plan, the committee's probably going to be in existence for 5 years. I think the goal is to have people on the committee who can commit to be there roughly 80% of the time, and people that have an interest in the process. I think I like the, traditionally we have a committee, and then ultimately it goes to planning board with the school business program. It's one committee. And so the 3 planning board members are part of that, which I think is great. So if anybody has an interest in the public, please get your application in quickly, because we'd like to vote those in on the 14th.
Yeah, and I would just note that the 3 members that the permanent building took a vote last week, and they've already provided you with the names. It's Jack Connery, Jack Fisher, and Jeff Fisher. I just would like to recognize Cam Daly, Mike Keefe, Dave Lynch, Bernie Gober, and the late Phil Weil for all their contributions. It looks like they're going to probably be taking a back seat from the permanent building committee for some time now until the next municipal building comes up, but they all did a great job on this. So.
Okay, and I would just say for the Board of Selectmen, on May 14th, we'll vote in one of our members as the representative to the school building board. So, thanks.
And
That's it.
just, can we make a motion to send them a thank you note?
Sure.
They've been busy.
Yeah.
The planning board?
The
Permanent
permanent building
Oh,
committee,
yep.
committee members that are now
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
gonna have as much to do for a little bit. Motion.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it. Any other comments or questions from the board?
One little announcement that we would like to welcome and recognize Cindy's first grandchild that she had since our last meeting. And,
I think that's great, yeah.
right, even though
Congratulations.
Cindy's not here, congratulations. That's it.
Minutes of April 2nd. We
Make
have
a
them in the
motion to
packet?
accept.
Yes.
With clerical correction.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.